What's up, guys? I'm James Baney, and I'm here with Kyle Larson, and we are getting ready to tell you what happened in the High Republic Into the Dark. All right, man, we are here back again, and what we do on what happened in this series is we know that a lot of people don't have the ability to either like pick up a book, like maybe that's money, maybe that's time, maybe they're just not entirely invested in it or interested, but they still want to know what's going on in the story. And another thing too is like some people read the books later down and then, you know, kind of forget them, or there's another a second chapter, a sequel coming up. They want to come back and revisit them. That's what we're here for. So we can kind of just give you a broad, spoiler-filled plot synopsis of what happened in this book. And today we're going to be doing Claudia Gray's The High Republic book, Into the Dark. You ready to explain this one?
I am ready. Yes, let's do it.
All right, Kyle. This book starts with a Padawan named Reath Silas, who finds out he's being reassigned with his master, Jorah Malley, to Starlight Beacon. Reath isn't super excited about this since he's more interested in becoming a scholar and studying the vast history of the Jedi archives. But Jorah Malley encourages him to keep an open mind and reminds him that there will be plenty of time for studying and this highly desirable assignment. This is a highly desirable assignment for a Jedi or a Padawan of his type.
Right. So a couple weeks later, Reath is going to make his way to Starlight Beacon because Jorah has already disembarked earlier. So he's chartering a ship called The Vessel. The Vessel is very important. And he travels with Jedi Master Cohmac Vitus and a Jedi who's actually a way seeker, which is a type of Jedi who kind of exists outside of the order, but still practices the Jedi ways. And her name is Orla Jeremie. They meet the crew of The Vessel, and this crew is Affie Hollow, and she's kind of the heir apparent to the Bin Guild or the Bine Guild. Her mother is actually their leader. And the other person is Leox Gyasi, the old spice smoking pilot, Matthew McConaughey lookalike, who's been around the block a few times, and Geode, who is a silent rock-like being, and he serves as their navigator. What happens next?
Did you mention Cohmac?
I believe I did, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cohmac, the folklorist, and Orla. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. On their way to Starlight Beacon, the vessel is knocked out of hyperspace when the Legacy Run tragedy occurs, which is kind of the crux for all the High Republic stuff, along with a few other ships that were also knocked out. They make their way to a derelict space station seeking refuge from the volatile star nearby, which could send out violent solar flares at any moment. But once aboard, they realize it's actually this ancient arboretum, likely constructed by these people called the Amaxine, and they're an extinct warrior culture who vanished like a millennia ago, like I think Old Republic kind of stuff.
Yeah. Old Republic for sure. They ran out of people to fight. So Cohmac and Orla, they are immediately concerned about a dark side presence that they sense aboard the Amaxine station, but they can't seem to place it. At first, they think it might be coming from the flora and the fauna of the Arboretum, but Cohmac knows he's sensed that kind of presence before, and he doesn't really sense it here. So he focuses on a set of idol statues that they both start to believe were placed there to kind of either absorb or contain the dark side that they are sensing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Affie discovers the Amaxine station has actually been used extensively by the Bine Guild, who she's a part of, for trafficking indentured workers, which are basically like trafficking slaves. It's a practice she thought the Bine Guild stayed away from, and realizes that her mother has been hiding this information from her, and she was just completely unaware of all of it.
Yeah, exactly. So Reath and Des actually make the acquaintance of Nan, who's a passenger aboard one of the other ships that was knocked out of hyperspace and has found refuge on this strange station. And she has a lot of questions about the Jedi and the Republic, which Reith is very happy to answer because he remembers that a big part of the outreach his master wanted him to be a part of on Starlight Beacon was kind of letting people know what the Republic and the Jedi are all about. But while exploring the lower rings of the Maxine station, Des all of a sudden disappears in a chamber that he walks into. All they see is like a big bright light flashing, and then they realize it actually was used to house, or they think it's used to house the coaxium, and that makes them think that he's been vaporized and that he's dead. He
basically dies. Yeah,
he basically dies.
So after a period of waiting, the Jedi and the others are cleared to return to Coruscant. The Legacy Run disaster, they reopened up the channels and all that. So Comac and Orla bring the idol statues back with them, assuming they contain the dark side, so the Jedi Order can examine them. But upon their return, Reith learns that his master, Jorah, who had been out on Starlight Beacon, was fighting the Nile, the Battle of Cuernebula, which happens in that book. She died there, and he has been kind of like left alone now. He has no master. And because of the situation that's going on, and there's a bunch of other attention and stuff, they just kind of let him be free for a little bit until he can kind of gather his mental state.
Yeah. So once the Jedi are able to inspect the idols, Orla discovers that they were actually meant to keep the dark side contained and static aboard the Maxine station. So she realizes by removing them, they've potentially unleashed a really terrible dark side power. When she asks to return them, the council refuses because they're just kind of dealing with the chaos that's still unfolding from the Legacy Run disaster, and they need every last Jedi that they can get. They don't necessarily forbid she and Comac to go to the station, so they kind of use that little loophole and decide that they can go anyway, and they think that that's okay. They got off on a technicality, so they head back. And here's the interesting thing too is like throughout this story throughout the story, they're kind of telling another side story that happened 25 years previous that involves Comac and Orla and how they're haunted by a hostage situations that they had to face when they were Padawans. During this diplomatic mission, these Hutt proxies kidnapped two heads of state from two different planets that were kind of arguing of each other, and the Jedi were dispatched to rescue the hostages. The rescue mission went sideways, killing Comac's master and one of the heads of state. They were able to rescue the other side, their queen, but the damage was done, and the failure still sticks with both of them. So he lost his master, and Orla was kind of the person that took responsibility for the other head of state being killed. This motivates them to protect the people still aboard the Maxine station, which is why they get involved with trying to replace the statues and all that. Right, making it right. So after learning about the Nile, Reith realizes that Non is one of them, and if you've read Light of the Jedi, you'll probably pick this up when you're reading Into the Dark, because they describe her ship, which is very distinct in the Nile and the garb. So he decides that he wants to return to the station as well, because he wants to now get information about the Nile for the Republic, since he's basically been like bleeding this information about the Jedi and the Republic. So he wants to get the information about the Nile to the Republic. So all three of the Jedi, aside from Des, obviously, because he's dead, rejoin Affy and the vessel to return to the Maxine station. Upon their arrival, they see a massive Nile battleship has arrived. And luckily, they are able. It's no longer just this little rinky-dink ship that Non and her boss, the Heg, showed up in. It's an actual battleship, but luckily they're able to sneak aboard undetected.
Yeah, so they all kind of have their reasons for being there. Like Affy is there to pick up more information about all the like slave trading, if you will, but indentured workers and stuff. But Reith is there to search for Nan. So he goes searching for her, hoping to confront her and find his answers. And he ends up stumbling upon the same area where Des was disappeared. And he falls in as well. The door locks behind him and he gets shot out. It's actually a pod that was outfitted with a hyperdrive system that takes him to a strange planet that are covered in sentient plants called the Drengir. The Amaxines constructed the stations as a waypoint in the war, sending soldiers to the Drengir homeworld via the same pods that Reith traveled in. The Drengir, again, like these crazy dark side plants that have vines and stretches, and they're all kind of one mind and stuff. They're crazy. The Drengir eventually figured out how the pods work and sent their own warriors back to the station, who were never returned. And Reith isn't the first Jedi they've encountered. We learned Des is actually alive because he was sent there, and he's been drugged and tortured by the Drengir pretty heavily, actually.
Yeah, they've been doing a number on poor Des here. They've been using toxins and pain to basically poison his mind, essentially. You know, not to mention the dark side is probably doing a number on him as well. And they basically get him so messed up with hallucinations, and they pit him against Reith. So Reith is able to kind of reach out through the Force to Des, you know, as Des basically approaches him like lightsaber drawn, and focus on the bond and you know the positive things that they shared with Master Jorah, and that brings Des out of it, which is pretty cool. A great moment in the book. So Reith and he escape back to Amaxine Station. Des is badly wounded, but he's going to survive. But this encounter is really crucial because it also, you find out that the Drengir were also facing off against the Sith at some point on the Amaxine Station, and that the Sith were the ones who placed the idols to keep the Drengir contained in stasis. So basically, these are even people or beings that the Sith are afraid of. So yeah. that tells you something right there.
Yep. The Drengir, when the Nile actually discover the Jedi, that they're on the base, a battle ensues. When Reith and Des are reunited with Orla and Comac, they decide to use the Drengir and the station's autonomous pruning droids. It's kind of confusing, but there's these droids that kind of tend to all the plants. And if you try to hurt the plants, they attack you. So they kind of cause the Drengir to hurt the plants so that the droids go after the Drengir, and it actually works for a little while. That gives them enough time to reset the statues and other stuff because they want to get them safe again. Reith in this time frame confronts Nan, who lets him live, but she has a blaster. But promises the Jedi will fall. So she lets him live because he saved her life earlier in the book, and she knows that the Nile are not going to let that happen. You know, not going to be happy with that. So he goes off, but he only gets one chance. But she promises that the Jedi will fall because she actually truly does believe in the Nile. And there's more to her story and stuff about, you know, her family and being desperate to survive and all this other stuff. So the battle, sorry, there's a lot here. The battle ensues. Oh, and Reith eventually opens up the airlock to the station in order to save everybody. When he's cornered in the lower rings, the Nile and the Drengir are blown out into space, and Nan and a handful of others of the Nile escape. Reith blows all the other hyperspace pods from the stations, ensuing no one will be able to return the Drengir homeworld or risk them spreading across the galaxy. Yeah, a lot to be said in that. To even more quickly summarize it, the place is going to blow up. It's on fire. It's in a bad situation, but it's still very risky because all these different people are going to try to take over it. So he, in the last second, just basically kind of destroys almost everybody on there by opening up the windows, and everybody flies out. It clears out the base except for just a few random survivors, including Nan. All right. Whew.
Yeah.
A lot there.
Good one. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, quite an act. So back on Coruscant, Affy actually goes and reports her mother's practices to the Republic, and basically is going to get the guild shut down. Orla gets a ship of her own and decides it's time to go exploring wild space because she's a way seeker. And again, they are Jedi who are not really beholden to the Order, but they still are considered to be part of the Jedi. They're basically on kind of like an extended sabbatical, and they're trying to find their own way and their own purpose in the Force, which is really cool, I think. Comac, he actually takes Reith as his new Padawan, and they make their way to the ceremony on Starlight Beacon, which kind of converges with all the other High Republic stories. I'm talking about the comic book and the other 2 books as well.
They all kind of wrap up at the Starlight Beacon opening ceremony.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good moment. So
the last little bit of this book is non-returning to inform Marky and Ro, who's like the leader of the Nile. He's the top of the top, about what happened and all that situation. And in very uncharacteristic action, Ro forgives her for returning empty-handed, but he does vow that the Jedi will be destroyed under the hand of the Nile. So I think he's probably going to try to bring her in because he understands what she went through. But that's it, guys. That is what happened in Claudia Gray's The High Republic, Into the Dark. Like I said, if you listen to this, it was full of spoilers. You can still check out the book. We recommend it. It's a good read, especially to get into all the nitty gritty details and all that. But there will likely be more stories with these characters, so we'll be here to tell you what happened in those books or those comics or whatever, right?
Yeah.
For now, that's the story. If you want to hear more of us just giving our reviews and our personal feelings on the book, having a discussion on what we thought about the book, there's another ancillary video that's also on the site right now, or on our YouTube. So you can check out. That's just book discussions. Into the Dark book discussion, spoiler. But you can check that out. Make sure you comment, and all this, YouTube stuff on this video. I'm James Baney. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MyerTrunks. Kyle, where can people find you?
Kyle Larson. You can find me on Twitter at Kyle D. Larson. And I'm also writing these wonderful reviews for Star Wars Newsnet, and I contribute to What the Force as well.
Yeah. All right. That's it. We'll see you guys next time.